Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a pretty wild story that claims to connect the pills in your medicine cabinet to one of the biggest oil tycoons in history. All right, let's just jump right in with a question I'm sure has crossed your mind. Have you ever wondered why, when you go to the doctor, the solution so often seems to be a prescription, a pill for every ill, instead of maybe talking about diet or lifestyle or other natural options? Well, the article we're looking at today has a pretty bold theory. It argues this system was no accident. It suggests this whole model was intentionally designed over a century ago by a name you definitely know, John D. Rockefeller. So this takes us to our first section. We're heading back to the turn of the 20th century, where an oil baron apparently saw a brand new frontier for his empire, not in the ground, but in our bodies. Okay, so picture this. By the early 1900s, Rockefeller's Standard Oil had a total stranglehold on the energy market. We're talking about controlling 90% of all oil in the US. But according to our source, he was already hunting for the next big thing, and he found it in the chemical byproducts of his oil refineries. He apparently saw this incredible potential in something called allopathic medicine. Now, from a business point of view, the secret sauce here was its reliance on synthetic compounds made from, you guessed it, petrochemicals. And why was that such a big deal? Simple. You could patent them. They could be owned, controlled, and sold for huge long-term profits. And this, right here, is the core conflict the article presents. See, at the time, things like herbal remedies and holistic medicine were totally mainstream. But you can't patent an herb, right? So according to this source, Rockefeller's grand vision of a for-profit, patent-driven medical industry was on a direct collision course with how medicine was actually practiced by most people. So you might be wondering, how on earth could one person, even a powerful one, pivot an entire industry and change the way everyone thinks about health? Well, the source we're examining lays out a very deliberate, step-by-step strategy. It describes this three-pronged attack. The argument is, this wasn't just about selling new products. It was about fundamentally reshaping the institutions, the schools, and the public's trust in medicine itself. So, step one, according to this story, was a major report that was commissioned to evaluate America's medical schools. It was called the Flexner Report. And man, this thing was brutal. It went through and systematically trashed any school that taught things like homeopathy or herbal medicine, calling it all quackery. Its big recommendation? Standardize all medical education around their preferred, drug-focused model. And you can see just how powerful that report was. Almost immediately, new laws were passed. Medical schools that didn't get on board with the new standards had a choice: completely change how they taught medicine or get shut down. And the result? In just about a decade, the entire field of medical education in the US was turned on its head. Okay, step two in this plan: follow the money. The source says that Rockefeller and his buddy Andrew Carnegie started pumping massive amounts of money into medical schools and hospitals. But there was a huge string attached. To get a piece of that cash, you had to adopt the new curriculum. And that meant getting rid of any courses on nutrition, herbal medicine, or any kind of holistic health. And the third and final piece of the puzzle was basically a PR war. The article claims a massive media campaign was launched to change the public's mind. Natural healers were openly mocked. Their methods were called unscientific and dangerous. The message being pushed was simple: trust the new, modern, scientific pill, not some old-fashioned remedy. So what was the end result of all this? Well, with the competition basically sidelined, the stage was set for a brand new industry to take over. Which brings us to the rise of what we now call Big Pharma. So think about it. By knocking out the competition, discrediting and defunding natural medicine, while at the same time pushing this new patent-based model, the argument is that this strategy literally built the foundation for the entire modern pharmaceutical industry. This, the article claims, is how Big Pharma was born. And this vision wasn't just for America. In 1914, Rockefeller set up the China Medical Board. The goal, our source says, was exactly the same: use money and influence to try and replace thousands of years of traditional Chinese medicine with the new, profitable Western model. Okay, so why are we talking about something that happened over 100 years ago? Well, the article connects these historical events directly to our modern healthcare system and some of its biggest, most frustrating problems. Just look at this chart. It shows this bizarre paradox that the article really hammers home. The United States spends way more on healthcare per person than any other developed country. It's not even close. And yet we consistently rank lower on major health outcomes like life expectancy. The source argues this is the direct consequence of a system built for profit, not for wellness. And according to the article, this is where we see the real consequences today. It points to sky-high costs, a system where simple, non-patentable remedies are often just ignored, where a powerful industry influences government policy, and where treatments are sometimes focused more on what's profitable than what's actually best for our well-being. And the author makes it clear this isn't just some dusty old story. They argue that the same playbook is still being used today in modern fights over natural substances like kratom, or even the historical criminalization of cannabis. Discredit and outlaw the non-patentable competition to protect the market. But the story doesn't end on a negative note. The source actually wraps up by pointing to a pretty big cultural shift. It seems there's a growing reawakening, with more and more people actively seeking out the exact, holistic, and natural approaches that were pushed to the margins all those years ago. So, where does that leave us? This whole explainer really boils down to one big, provocative question. If we understand this version of how our medical system was shaped, it forces us to ask, are we on the verge of another huge shift? And what will the future of our health and healing really look like?